Hello and welcome to HyperPlay RPG. So you're interested in buying an R36S, or maybe you've got one on the way. A great little machine, but it does need some tinkering with to get the most out of it. And that can be quite tricky for beginners. There are lots of guides online and we'll show you the best ones later. But even those we found aren't exactly perfect. If you haven't got one yet, you can get one from AliExpress for about $40. And we do think that's a good price. First thing you'll need to do is buy some micro SD cards. One for the operating system side on the right and one for the ROMs on the left, or just one card which can go into the operating system slot on the right and then also double for your ROMs. Now this card, SanDisk Extreme, would be absolutely fine provided you're using it in the operating system side as a one SD card solution. But do not use it in the left-hand side ROMs only slot, because the machine will not recognize SanDisk cards in the ROM slot. It will in the OS slot, but not in the ROM slot. So more information about that later with regard to SD cards and updating. Now we did a video already about items that can go wrong with the R36S, and one was when we got ours, it all looked very beautiful coming out of the box, but as soon as we picked it up, sad face, the screen flopped forward. It did that just of its own accord. It was loose, and this has happened to some others, and so we've heard. It can be fixed, at least temporarily, by pushing it firmly, but not too firmly, back in. Now fully charge the R36S with the cable that comes with it, and then start researching how to update to the new ARK OS operating system. You'll be wanting the version from 29 September 2023. So how do you update to a new version of ARK OS from the 29th of September 2023? Well, there are a couple of really good guides online on YouTube about how to update, and one of them is this one by, and I'm sorry if I've got his name slightly pronounced wrong, Jacek Rusin. Definitely subscribe to Jacek and check out his other videos. He's done loads of testing on games, and he's helped us get our Saturn emulation up to speed on the R36S. You'll see it says R35S and R36S here, and that's because the updating system is the same on both consoles for ARK OS. Alternatively, you could look at Retro Game Core's Guide to ARK OS, but that's a little out of date, and also recommends a SanDisk SD card for your ROMs, which, as I've said before, we do not recommend for the R36S. This is, however, this one here that is showing on screen is by far the best guide. This is Joey's Retro Handhelds R35S, R36S setup guide. Definitely follow Joey's Retro Handhelds, and in particular bookmark that video, save it to all your watch lists, whatever, because that is the Bible for how to get the new ARK OS up and running on the R36S successfully. However, although it's an amazing guide, we did find that in our experience there were a couple of things which didn't quite match up with what we had to do, and I'll tell you all about those later as part of our troubleshooting section on upgrading to the new ARK OS. In fact, I'll tell you a quick one now. He says to throw away both of the cards that come with the machine. We say don't do that. Yes, they do need to be replaced, but keep them as backups and copy them as well onto your computer. So then you've got the ROMs from the left-hand side SD card, but also you've got the original operating system from the right-hand side SD card, just in case anything goes wrong in future. Magnificently, Joey even tells you where you can get your ROMs, but we do also recommend keeping hold of all the ROMs that are already preloaded onto the 64 gig SD card provided by the R36S manufacturers. Anyway, the first thing you're going to want to do is format your memory cards, your new memory cards, or maybe they're existing memory cards you've already got knocking around, but ones of better quality anyway than the ones that came with the machine. So this is what we recommend to format the memory cards. This will get it into exFAT, and that's what you need. So go and download SD memory card formatter from this site. And then you're going to need to flash the new ARK OS operating system onto the SD cards. And we highly recommend using Rufus, not Berliner Etcher, as suggested by Jacek Rusin and Retro Game Core, because very specifically the ARK OS wiki says not to use Balena Etcher, so do not use Balena Etcher. And also we'd recommend don't use Win32 disk imager, because we used that and it didn't work first time up. Rufus is the one to get. You can download it from Shown. Anyway, it's all well and good talking endlessly about this new version of ARK OS that you need, but where can you get it? Well, you can get it from the ARK OS wiki, and it's on the developers page. Christian is the guy's name, and it's the ARK OS wiki page that you need. And specifically, as you look at the screen, you can see that we've circled what we recommend you download. This is the new operating system for ARK OS, but it's a smaller file size at about 8 gigabytes, and it's much more manageable and flashes and transfers much easier, we have found. Jacek Rusin's guide and Joey's guide suggest using other versions, as does Retro Game Core, but we found this absolutely works the best, this version of ARK OS and this particular download of ARK OS. So you've downloaded it, but before you flash it using Rufus onto your new SD card for the operating system, you absolutely must unzip this ARK OS file downloaded that you've got downloaded. You must unzip it with 7-zip. So if you haven't got 7-zip, go and get that downloaded too. We made the mistake of trying to unzip the ARK OS operating system with another unzipper, and it didn't work, so 7-zip's what you want. So you've unzipped it, you've flashed the new ARK OS over to your operating system SD card, but you get the flashing white screen here when you put the new operating system SD card into your machine. Well, do not despair, because that's exactly what happened to us. Now, Joey suggests at this stage, because this happened to him as well, going and get a partition tool and using that. And I'm sure that would work if Joey says it would, but we found that we must have gone somewhere wrong along the line. Maybe we didn't use 7-zip, maybe we didn't use Rufus, maybe we hadn't properly formatted the SD cards. So what we did was we took out our SD card. It's the 128 gig we were using on the right hand side as both the operating system and for the ROMs. We took that back out and we formatted it again, being very careful to format both new partitions that the R36S had created once we'd put the new SD card into the R36S. So bear that in mind. If you are trying to redo your steps, you will need to reformat the SD card with SD formatter, but not only drive D, but also drive E. You'll need to go down the drop-down menu in SD formatter to find drive E as well, because the R36S will have partitioned your new SD card. So bear that in mind, that you'll need to format both drives D and E. And then repeat the steps in Joey's video. Do all the things you did before. You don't necessarily have to go and re-download everything. A very likely cause is the DTB file that needs to be replaced. And Joey mentions this and Jacek mentions this in their videos for flashing the new ARK OS system, is that you will need to replace a DTB file. And the link for that is in the description. I'll put it in our description. It's definitely in the description to Joey's video that I mentioned earlier. What you absolutely need to make sure is that the DTB file has exactly the same name as the existing one. So when you put in the new DTB file, it has to have the same name as the existing DTB file when you're replacing the previous DTB file, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's all on Joey's video. So once you've redone those steps, hopefully everything is looking much better now, and you will get what's up on screen now, loads and loads of scrolling text while the operating system updates on the machine screen. You see a bunch of scrolling text like that, give yourself a hearty pat on the back because you've done it. You've got the new ARK OS up and running. Now, if you're using the 1SD card method, go into Options, go into Advanced, go down to Switch to SD1 for ROMs. It says SD2 on our screen, but that's because we're already using the SD1 card for ROMs. If you're finding you can't get a game to work, then highlight the game, press Select, and then go to the bottom and click on Edit this game's metadata and try choosing different emulators. The default emulator settings are not always the best, but through editing the metadata, don't worry, it doesn't mess around with the game at all. It just changes. A bit of a misnomer. It actually changes the emulator being used to run the game. Actually, Retro Game Core's guide to ARK OS that I said was a bit outdated from 8 months ago is good on that particular topic of changing the emulators. And Jacek Rosin's video also covers some of that, as he's been able to get lots of games to work that you wouldn't think necessarily possible on this magical little R36S. Talking of getting games to run, we're going to do a guide to Saturn and how you can get Panzer Dragoon Saga and Shining Force 3 working absolutely perfectly on this beauty. And we're also going to check out this claim made on the adverts on AliExpress. Can you really get monitor or TV output from the R36S through the OTG port? We're going to put this to the test with your recommended OTG adapters and cables that we've ordered specially. So do like and subscribe. Definitely stay tuned for the final word on whether the R36S can be hooked up to your TV or not. If you're interested in Wi-Fi, then Jacek's got a great new video out just now about how to connect Wi-Fi dongles and get Wi-Fi on the R36S. And finally, if you've made it this far, do check out our website, HyperPlay RPG, for our amazing new book with 300 RPG reviews and also copies of Xenogears Perfect Works available in English only through our website. Many thanks for your support. Please like this video, please subscribe to HyperPlay RPG, and take care. Bye.